So I think everyone was playing. It was an experiment. It was, hey, what could we do? What might we do? And I think what you're seeing now is people moving from that test, that experiment to, oh, okay, maybe it's time to actually expand it, which is creating more interesting problems though. Because now what it's creating is these cybersecurity problems, right? It's causing governance questions. It's causing all kinds of different, like, what are the guardrails that we should be applying now, right? So the experiment, I think, has become, yeah, we got something out of this, but now it's, all right, we need to now move this to scale. So we have bigger questions now. We have governance questions. We have security questions. If we're using this thing called agents now, right? Well, agents act like humans. They have certain rights to access data. And so now how do we manage these agents? So I think what you're hearing is people moving from kind of the AI POC, right? The possible to, okay, what can we be doing now to actually help our citizens, actually help the people that the constituents that we respond to, right? What's the actual mission and what's the guardrails behind those? Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things. One is we are specifically focused, with DLT and our public sector teams. There's so many things that are nuanced from commercial. But I will tell you the thing that we do the most is around, enabling our partners to do something different. And that's not just respond to an RFP that's issued by an agency. It's actually helping them craft the RFP. So there's a issuance of the RFP of we need this, this, and this, and this, and you respond to it, or you help define it up front. And so our partners can participate in a destination AI practice accelerator for public sector. And we just had one. We just had one in our new facility. And it was amazing. First, the facility is amazing. But there's a couple of things these partners are learning. One is you have to sell an outcome. You can't just sell the box anymore. You have to set the RFP, not respond to the RFP. And here's the thing that they learned is that they have to do it in their strength, not in like what's going out in the air right now and what's hot and what's not hot, but really what is your strength? So in our practice accelerators, we talk about what is your strategy? We talk about what differentiates you. Then we talk about like, well, how are you going to market? How are you going to test this? And how do you go to market? So we had 20 partners come to our new office in our new location, and it was great because that's what we were working on. We assume you could respond to an RFP. People can do that. What we want you to do is get in front of the RFP and help define the outcomes. And what they're hearing, what these agencies are hearing, and what everyone's telling them that is that, hey, you need to do AI. You need to, and the question of what does do AI mean then becomes much broader. Well, first you have to like understand, well, what outcome am I trying to achieve? Is it citizen care? Is it anything related to documents and document approvals and document management, right? That's kind of a universal use case across so many different agencies. You got a document, you got to do something with the document, you have to do yes or no on that document, and then you have to send that document off. That's a pretty common use case, right? So what you're seeing though is people going, well, I don't know where that data sits. I don't have rules, right? I don't have guidelines for what I'm supposed to do it. It's in a person's head. That's what I approve, right? So when the data is bad and there's no security, then what you have is people not really relying on, did that work or not? And then you have people going, wait, we used to do it this way all the time. So is there a better way to think about it? So AI is going to force you to either rethink how you do things, or it's going to accelerate a thing you already do. So if that thing you already do is bad, don't do it. It's just AI is just going to accelerate the bad part of it. I think one is within leaning into your strength. So let's say you're doing things within, one of the agencies like Veteran Affairs and things like that, right? You understand what's going on at the compliance levels. You understand the need to take care of our veterans. You understand that. So the questions then are find resources, look at the available use cases. Every OEM has spent a gazillion dollars on use cases. There's so many out there. Use use a generative AI tool, whether it's Copilot to iterate to any of these other ones, to just ask the question, what is most important to this agency? How do I help that happen? Right? And I think that that's the biggest step that people can actually, take the weightiness out of it and talk about real simple things that people can actually execute. What can I do with one thing? And then does it look like something else that I've done? How can I apply it again? Documents is one of the great things. Knowledge management is one of the ones that every agency, from whether it's your driver's license to your VA benefits to all of that, all apply to a piece of information that you have to act upon, that you should do a decision on. Yeah, so that's actually a phenomenal question, right? Because you can innovate recklessly. And when you innovate recklessly, then it's, hey, use whatever large language model you want to use. Use whatever AI tool you want to use. And let's not worry about, what data it accesses. Let's not worry that, our data is not clean. So I think what you ultimately see then is this paradox between innovation and what's trustable. Right? And here's, I think, the thing that differentiates that most and helps the most is when there's still a human in the loop. Because you can't trust exactly what's going on based on the data until you verify it and test it. There's this concept called Dunning-Kruger effect. And the Dunning-Kruger effect is this thing that says, as, the less we know about something, the more confident we speak about it. They call it Mount Stupid. And what's really interesting about Mount Stupid is, you ever look at your responses in the generative AI and the tools that come back? They sound really confident. But yet, when you look at it and look at some of the details behind it, there's all kinds of examples on, my doom scrolling Instagram where they can't pronounce certain names. They can't tell you how many T's are in committee, right? We ran a thing one time that said, hey, clocks, give me a clock, give me a series of pictures of clocks that start at 11 and it's 11:32. So we wanted images of clock faces that were from 11:32. You know what it couldn't do? Couldn't generate those. Because when it went and looked back into its sources, you know what the most popular time is on watch faces? 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. It symmetrically looks fantastic. At one point, generative AI couldn't generate 11:31 because it went back and said, well, everything that I have is at 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. So you have to have a human in the loop. You have to be able to understand, what am I doing on the innovation side? Because it's super cool. You just, generate this, but then you have to double check it and verify. And I think you're seeing that in coding. You're seeing that all across the board, is you can't just take what the output is and then deploy it, because you don't know what the data is behind it, and you don't know whether it's hallucinating, whether something's been, there's been a problem with it. So there's all kinds of things. So you have to balance innovation with trust and make sure that each step of the way is guarded in the guardrails. Well, I would say one of the primary places for public sector is around the market intelligence reports. I read those every week. I mean, I'm religious about reading those every week because some of the detail is so great. Like, when Veterans Affairs, what they're doing, the Department of Treasury is working on a whole identity management because they understand what's happening with agents and things like that. So the first thing I would say is if you're not reading the market intelligence reports that our team puts out, DLT puts out, you need to do that. The other thing you really need to do is understand, like, we have tremendous AI pre-sales support. Everything from the specifics around Copilot to the OEMs themselves, Dell, Lenovo, all of those, Intel, NVIDIA. We have so many technical resources that you should never go in and go, I'm not really sure what I'm going to talk about, right? And then there's all kinds of tools that we have, like the solution builder that we have in our practice accelerators, to AI game plan, which is out there for people to kind of prioritize use cases. You really shouldn't feel that TD SYNNEX can't help you. And I think what's really interesting, if you look at market intelligence, you go through an accelerator, you look at the enablement platforms and the people that in pre-sales that are available to you, and post-sale and the professional services, you really shouldn't you shouldn't say, we can't do that. You should say, we can partner with people and we can solve your problem and we could focus on the outcome. That's how you should be looking at TD SYNNEX resources, right? From beginning to end. That's what we're here to help you do. So I'm an old guy. And when the internet became a thing in the late 90s, everyone was always talking about, hey, what's going to happen, like, now that the internet, and we're going to disintermediate all these, like, you're not going to have travel agents anymore, you're not going to have insurance agents, you're not going to have. Guess what? We still have them. Have they adapted and changed quite a bit? Absolutely. So what I actually hope we see is AI gets dropped as a vernacular itself, and AI becomes, hey, we're talking about switches, we're talking about storage, we're talking about good business intelligence, we're talking about business in a way that drops the whole AI, because everything in AI is going to be embedded in everything, right? So maybe in 2 years, what we start talking about is, hey, how are we using technology to help the business? How are we helping technology help citizens? How are we helping technology? How are we using technology to help people in our citizen care? How are we helping people be safer? And not just saying, well, AI can help you be safer. I think ultimately, you're going to see the partners of the future be able to have conversations about security, about data, about cloud, and about AI infrastructure. Because all of it's combining in a way around power and cooling and what's available, that if partners of the future aren't versed enough to have those conversations, they're going to be missing a piece of the puzzle. And so my advice to partners that are very focused on servers and edge devices, start thinking about what you're doing with the cloud. For those of you that are really, really cloud focused, you know what? A lot of that's coming back on-prem. Sorry, it is. Data sovereignty is forcing that. If you are a cybersecurity firm and all you're worried about is not cyber resilience, but just protecting, then there's a really good chance that you're not going to protect enough and you're going to have to recover from that. And ultimately, all of it's around AI. And what can you do with it, and what guardrails should you put around it?